Back to the Culture Call on Praise 93.3 with L. Spencer Smith. Our desire is to reach and empower the community by discussing a cross-section of relevant topics from various perspectives that are essential to its growth and interpersonal connections. Be sure to save our call-in number, 205-752-4800. Be sure to install the free Praise 93.3 app so you can send L. Spencer Smith a message or topic idea. Search for WTSK in your app store.
This is a world premiere.
Great morning, precious people. You know what time it is. Absolutely. It is time for the number one talk show. You made it so. The Culture Call with yours truly, L. Spencer Smith, right here on Praise 93.3 FM and 790 WTSK. This is the place where Tuscaloosa meets the world. And of course, for the next 2 hours from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m., we're going to be here talking a little bit about what? Everything. Yeah. From society to sports, education to economics, from religion to relationships. And as always, we are here to create a safe space to have, empowering, provocative, and yes, ma'am, yes, sir, controversial conversation. And guess what? You can call in, chat it up with me as we learn together right here on the Culture Call. Shout out time. Shout out number one goes to all of our new listeners. That's right. Our new listeners, if this is your first time listening to the Culture Call, welcome, ma'am. Welcome, sir. So very glad to have you on board our flight. Hey, the Culture Call Airlines, we don't play around here. Absolutely. Sometimes we might experience some turbulence, but for the most part, it ain't nothing but smooth sailing right over here. Yeah, but we want to welcome you, whether you're at your cubicle, whether you're riding downtown, riding through the town, or maybe you're on vacation. Whatever it is, you've got your ear pods in, or if you're by yourself, you blasting it through the house. Yeah, we are so glad that you are part of the CC family, and I promise you today is going to be an awesome day on our show. Shout out number two, absolutely, to all of our faithful, consistent, committed listeners. Thank you so very much for tuning in again. That's right. You make me feel so good. You are the reason why we are the number one talk show. Definitely could not have done it without you. You've told everybody about the Culture Call, and when you see me in the street, you let me know how proud of you are me, that I'm doing a good job. That you did a thing on there. You said some other stuff. Oh, goodness gracious. You taught me something today. Listen, that's my job. That's my purpose. And I am so grateful. So shout out to all of our consistent, committed listeners. And then, of course, last but not least, shout out number three, Brother Jay. What can we say about Brother Jay? Hey, that rhymes. That's right. I'm talking about his wisdom, his coaching, his mentoring. I'm telling you, years of experience, not only in the radio business, but in life, man. I am so grateful how God positioned him in my life for such a time as this, encouraging me to be bold, to be courageous, and to be a man of integrity. Man, I'm telling you, I heard his Bible commentary today, and it was astounding. And we're going to pick back up on that for just a minute, because I'm telling you, he said some things, but it's more online. You can read it online as well. Listen, I need you to do me a favor. If you've not done it already, go to your smartphone, your Apple or your Android device, and go to your app store. That's right, your app store. And I need you to search Praise 93.3. There you're going to find an app. Yeah, I need you to download that. It's free 99. Doesn't cost you a thing. Go ahead and download that, put your information in, and you can hear us online right now. You can hear us via the app right now. But not only the Culture Call, you can hear Brother Jay in the mornings, and you can hear Minister Chris in the afternoons. I'm telling you, you can hear Darlene at night, where if you're working the night shift. Listen, we have the best in inspirational programming that you're going to find here in West Alabama. Yeah, absolutely. And not only West Alabama, all around the country, Chicago, Detroit, Miami, Tallahassee, Atlanta, wherever you are, you can tune into all of the great things that we have going on here at Praise 93.3 with our app. So go ahead and do that for me and be a part of the experience. Okay, good deal. Also, email me at your public service announcements and events at culturecall.praise@gmail.com. That's culturecall.praise@gmail.com. And let me be your PR assistant, your PR executive, if you will. And let Lottie Dottie and everybody know what's going on in your church, your organization. Yeah, I want to know what's happening in your sorority, your fraternity. Maybe you're an artist getting ready to have a concert, or perhaps you're a preacher getting ready to start a revival. It does not matter. I want to make sure that there are some faces in the place so that you will know that what you're doing is so very important to our community. You know why? Because we do it better when we do it together. Listen, go ahead and follow me also on Facebook. That's right, The Culture Call. All you got to do is press that like button. That's right. And you're following me on social media, and you can find out all of the announcements in the events when I receive them, and then we post them. All of the important shows, and all of them are important, but definitely you can do that if you will follow me on Facebook. That's the only page I'm on social media. I'm not on Twitter. I'm not on X. I'm not on Instagram. None of that yet. I'm not there yet. So if you get somebody to say that I am, that is someone that's probably a hacker. Right? We don't want any of that, right? Yeah. So, and also go ahead and write down this number, 205-752-4800. That's 205-752-4800. And you can call into the show, and definitely on the chat feature on the app, you can send me a message on the chat. And I will receive it, and I will read it on the air. I will read it on the air, and we can have a discussion as well, just from the chat mechanism. So, hey, we've got a lot of ways for you to stay connected to the Culture Call. Do me a favor, sit back and relax, grab you some coffee. You know how we do it here from Maxwell House or Starbucks. Maybe coffee is not your thing. Go ahead and get you some tea. Yeah. Some chamomile if you're trying to calm down, some green tea if you're trying to wake up, get a little caffeine kick to make it to lunch, and maybe coffee or tea is not your thing. Guess what? Get you some spring or some alkaline water, flush that system, hydrate yourself. That's right. Wake those cells up, and let's get into the culture. Listen, we're less than 50 days away from the federal election, and I want to remind you there's a space and time where you have to register to vote. So if you have not done that, go ahead to vote.org, and you can check your registration. And if you haven't done so, you can go ahead and register to vote. Now, I'm telling you to check your registration because these southern states already, Georgia, Alabama, Mississippi, Louisiana, all of them are already starting some interesting removals. Let me just say that. Removals of registrations that have been previously there. You know, lately, Bishop Jakes just posted and said, Bishop T.D. Jakes posted and said, hey, he checked his registration and they had dropped him from the rolls, right? He was so shocked and surprised. He said, because I know I voted in every election, but here it is. He said, and then I re-registered on the spot. That's all you got to do is re-register. That's it. And because they're dropping people from the rolls, and you get there and you're thinking, and even if you get there, you can vote by provisional ballot, but we don't want to have to do that. So, ma'am, sir, go ahead and be proactive so you won't have to be reactive on that day. So that you can make sure that you can vote in the coming election here in Tuscaloosa on September 24th. The vote for the ad valorem taxes, the educational ad valorem tax, that is, and you can vote and be prepared for the general election November 5th. All right. So please do that. If you are 18 or if your child is 18, encourage them to register to vote. No one has the right and I'm saying this boldly, no one really has the right, especially black folks in our community. We don't have a right not to vote, right? Our vote is bathed and paved and washed in blood. Absolutely. Our ancestors, our foreparents, and it hadn't been that long ago. Don't blink your eyes, because there are people right now today know the price that was paid, especially in the southern states, that was paid to vote. Even though I believe the 15th Amendment said that we had a right to vote because of Jim Crow and white supremacy and racist things, because of Bull Connor and all the things that were going on in Birmingham, Tuscaloosa, Huntsville, all those places in rural areas, in Carrollton, all those places, Aliceville, Gordo, Reform, they did not want us to have the right to vote, because when black people vote, we shift the cultural dynamic. And when you think that you're the only one that's supposed to be in power and have agency and control over the populace, and then you have a population that may vote against you, you're going to do everything in your power to make sure that that vote does not happen and that you are one that is suppressing the vote. So please, they're expecting us not to show up. Let's embarrass them, right? They're expecting us not to show up in numbers. I'm talking about black folks. They are expecting us not to show up. Yeah, let's go ahead and do what we got to do. And not because there is an African-American woman that is on the ticket, but because it is our duty, it is our right, it is good citizenship. Yeah. And, people say, well, you just vote for her because she's black. Well, you voted for him because he's white, and you've done that over 40 times. So then there's that, right? Please don't let them gaslight you. There's only been one black president, right? And they sent this nation in a tizzy, all right? And we're hopeful and we're praying that all of our American democracy can open up to whoever is the qualified candidate, whether they are black, white, Hispanic, Asian, whoever they are. If they are qualified and they can lead the entire country, not just a part of it, that they would have a shot at doing so. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about, right? And so let's make sure that we do our due diligence as citizens and make that happen. Absolutely. I want to talk about something that has been pressing on me all throughout the night. But by the way, yesterday was my birthday, y'all. That's right. I had another rotation around the sun. Yay, me. Right. And I don't know if I told you how old I am. If I didn't, well, you won't know today because I'm not going to do that. But I want to thank you for all of you all who posted your kindness, and all of you who were, posted on social media, all of my social medias. I got so many messages to read. Man, people do not have to be kind to you. And I want to say from the bottom of a grateful heart, thank you. First of all, thank you to the Lord for keeping me alive another year. I am grateful. And then thank you for my family who just showered me with love yesterday, and all of my friends. I appreciate you. And then, of course, the listeners who, you don't know me personally, but you've seen me before and you hear me on the radio, and you got on my social media and y'all showed out. And I want to say absolutely, positively, again, from the bottom of a grateful heart, thank you. But after I finished with my festivities yesterday, I was thinking about what conversation should we talk about on the show. And because I don't want to inundate you too much with politics, even though that we are in a political season, and this could last all the way until after November. We could close out the year talking about politics, American politics, and politics all over the world. But I didn't want to do that. And so I was just kind of resting, and I just heard this phrase, best practices. And I woke up, I was like, what best practices? What? You know what? That everybody who is listening to me right now has heard that phrase, best practices, that this one ought to do the best practices, or the best practices for this, or the best practices for that, the best practices for high blood pressure. How can you reverse that? The best practices if you are a diabetic, how can you reverse that? The best practices if you have a wayward child or they're not doing well in school, what are some of what we consider to be, I guess a person would consider to be the best practices, or the best things you can do to get the kind of result and effect that you want. And I thought about that, and I thought about, this whole idea of what this whole mentality of, the narratives and the stories, and looking at the culture today. Everybody, that text in the scripture just hollered at me. Everybody does what is right in their own eyes. So when you look at best practices, it's not something that is standard across humanity, standard for all people, right? It is what a particular person has found to work best for them, right? And I think that is important, because when you understand that, first of all, you got to pick out what is best, first of all, for you, right? And then you have to respect what a person think is best for them. Now, The difference is that when we come together, if we're going to build coalition, collaboration, fellowship, and connection, we've got to do what Paul says, and that is be of the same mind frame, the same words, the same speech. That means that what is best practices for one is best practices for all. In other words, there is a doctrinal statement, if you can say it that way, that describes what is best practice. There is a ritual or ritualistic methodology, or what we in short call religion, right? There is some kind of religious modality and repetitive things that we do in terms of what would be best practices. And so let's say, for example, let's use church. If we're going to have best practices for the church, then here's what we want to see. That you have to be in attendance, you have to be a tither, a giver, you have to invest in the church, you have to work in ministry, you need to come to Bible study to learn about your faith and your faith tradition. You need to treat everybody right. You need to be a light that is not hid. You need to be one that is sharing the gospel. We just talking about religion in church, right? And basically, you need to be baptized or whatever, depending on what denomination you're in. That those things begin to formulate what we call best practices for this church, best practices for the Impact Nation, best practices for New Bethel, best practices for New Mount Zion, right? And so one of the things that we have to consider is that when we start talking about best practices, that we have to make sure that we are aligning ourselves with the right group and the right people, right? Right now in our country, we are utterly divided. We are divided politically. We're divided racially, in terms of a macro or meta narrative. Even though the creed of our country says one thing, right? That liberty and justice for all, with liberty and justice for all, for the people, by the people, right? But that those are the things that we say. But in action, we are aligning ourselves with particular people who mirror our ideology and who sanctions our particular viewpoint and perspective of what is truth, right? And just like Pontius Pilate asked, what is truth? He asked Jesus that. We need to differentiate when we talk about best practices. We first need to differentiate what's the difference between truth and what is true, because things can be true that are not the truth. Let me say it again, right? That things can be true, but they are not inherently the truth. And so everyone has their particular truisms that apply to their life. But you got to make sure that your truisms line up with the truth. Now, who determines what is truth? And then here it is truth a what, or is truth a who? Because if truth is a what, then there's different perspectives, there are different ideologies, there's different viewpoints that we need to consider in terms of truth's formulation, right? And then, those things can be debated. Those things can be, discussed. Those things can be rejected or adhered to because, it's truth is a what? These are objective thoughts and intentions, benchmarks, appearances in our own minds, right? Truth, right? That's if truth is a what. But if truth is a who, if truth is an individual, if truth has a level of personification, then I need to find out from that particular individual what are the best practices for my life, for my children, for my marriage, for my finances, for my career. You see what I'm saying? If truth is a who, right? Again, if truth is a what, then you can go to school and you can begin to morph several levels of truth, things that are true, into a particular truth for you, right? But if truth is a who, I need to consult that individual about what to do with my life. and how to treat people and how to move past triggers and traumas. I need to put myself on their therapeutic couch and let them tell me exactly what the truth is. And there's only one person in history that has said, I am the way, I am the truth, and I am the life. Hey, right? I just want to give you some perspective, right? No man comes to the Father but by me, right? There's only one person that has said that, right? And so a lot of times when we talk about best practices, we are living out what is true for us, what is true to us. We're trying to, and a lot of times those truths are determined by things both internal and external. What do you mean? Those things are determined by, how I perceive, what I feel, what I've been through, what I've experienced, what my parents have taught me, what they didn't teach me, what my friends say, what I've learned from this experience and that experience, how I've educated myself, et cetera, et cetera. We could do those things. We bring all those things that are true and we call it our truth. And then we have an issue, though. Here it is, that when the truth, the man who calls himself the truth, Christ, when he begins to say something, and here's the deal. The deal is, how do we fashion ourselves to understand, to abandon what has been true to us in order to embrace the truth? Okay, let's try it again. How do we disconnect, especially when the truth says one thing, but we've got all these truths, all these truisms that have built our lives? Are we willing to do as what the text says? Let God be true, right? Let him establish true, what is true, and let every man, what? Be a liar. Are we willing to do that? Right? I think life is a series, Culture Call, of things we've got to learn on the journey of discovery. And one of the great things that I have learned in all of these years of living, I've been in church most of my life. I've been around church people the sum total of my life. I think the least time that I was not with church people was my freshman, sophomore year in college. And that's only because I marched in the band. Right. But then I moved from the band and I got to the gospel choir. And so all those people their frame of reference were church. Right. That religion and church can give you a particular perspective. Right. That is not always lining up with the truth. And religion, yes, let me establish some things here. Religion is a good thing. Yep. But if it's not established on truth, then your ritual will become your idols. Your religion becomes your idols. Right? And it will be easy to call right wrong and wrong right when you abandon the reference point. That's how I want it. Yeah. When you abandon the reference point of what truth is and you have religion, man, or you have a particular ideology that you go by and you don't like the reference point that truth is pointing to, you will disconnect from truth and create your own situation. And everything that you create becomes an idol. It becomes something that you do it becomes very self-centered. It's about what your perspective is. It's about how you want to do it, how you want to say it, how you want to treat people, right? I get upset with my spouse. I'm going to divorce them, and now I'm on my fifth spouse. I'm on my fifth wife. I'm on my fourth husband, right? Because I'm not going to try to make it better, because my truth says when I don't like something, I get out. My truth says that, right? What is true to me, I'm tired of this. I'm XYZ and I didn't sign up for this. What? Right? And so what is interesting, Culture Call, is what I think we need to come back to brass tacks and begin to ask ourselves, are we really doing what our best practices for our lives? It is amazing to me. It is amazing to me how the overweight person can point at the person who is having sex outside of marriage and say that person is going to hell, but they are not. It is amazing that people who are bound by gluttony, overeating, can say things about the one that's smoking cigarettes. Are you not both addicted? See, because the issue is not the object of your addiction. The issue is that you're addicted. That's what the sin is. The sin is not in smoking cigarettes. The sin is in disrespecting the temple of God, your body. Right? Watch this. The sin is not the food. The sin is you not having any kind of temperance, maturity, and measurement, any kind of moderation. And here it is. We can hear you coming to church, hear you coming to work, because we can hear you breathe down the hall because you so big. Yes, and I'm not fat shaming anybody. I'm talking about you. I'm talking about what I'm talking about, right? I'm talking about this whole idea is how can you point the finger? Because you don't do what they do. And that's what you call best practices. But your blood sugar is off the chart, right? That when you disobey your doctor because God gonna heal you, that's best practices. And I know he's Jehovah Rapha. I've seen him heal. I've seen him take people off of medicine. I've seen him take people off of insulin. I've seen him heal cancer. I've seen it all. Remember now, your boy is a church baby, so I've seen miracles, signs, and wonders. But here it is. We have to live this life in this flesh, in this earth form, in this human body. And so you're not going to tell me because you don't do what they do, that it's best practices. No, it's not. Because then what are you doing? You can't get mad at me because I'm not married or I'm shacking up, but you getting the divorce. I've been in this relationship for 20 years. We ain't married yet. Oh, y'all going to hell. Okay, but you and Mabel been together for 20 years and now you getting a divorce because she found out about your side piece, sir. But how you going to point the finger? That part. And it's not about pointing the finger. Let me say that. It's not about pointing the finger. It is about understanding that adjudication, judging, does not emanate from either one of us. From the one that's overweight, from the one that's the liar, from the one that's the cheater, from the one that's doing X, Y, Z. Whatever your brand of sin is, that's not the issue. The issue is when you begin to judge other people for their lives because they're not measuring up to what? Your best practices. You don't sing like me, or you don't pray as many times as I pray, or you don't fast as long as I fast. You don't give as much as I give. You don't tithe as much as I tithe. And now you're pointing your finger as if that person is in hellfire and damnation, and you on your way to the pearly gates. And I want to tell you, you or I do not do. Let me say this again. You and I do not determine what is best practices, because you and I do not determine what is truth. Period. We don't. We absolutely don't. We don't determine that. And when we think we determine that is when we become pharisaical. It's when our religion has become idolatrous. And that is the very same thing that, Jesus, when he was walking this earth, had an issue with. It was, I don't mind your religion, because the text says that Jesus came to the synagogue as was his custom. That means Jesus had a religion, right? That every religion is something that you do in terms of ritual. You do it consistently and committedly. Yes, you got a religion because you tithe. You tithe every week or every other week or once a month, however you get your pay period is. You give, you pray, you praise, you worship, you lift your hands, right? You receive communion, you got baptized. All of that's religion. I'm spiritual, I'm not religious. Yes, no. Spiritual is undisciplined, right? Because if you're spiritual and you're really connected to God, he's going to tell you to do something. And a lot of times, and he's not going to let you determine what is the best practices. He's going to tell you what to do according to his will. And I think we are in a troubled time in our community, in our country, because we are all trying to exact our best practices on each other. And I think that we can do much better. Listen, that's my centering moment. There's so much to come right here on the Culture Call with yours truly, L. Spencer Smith. I need you to keep it right here. Go ahead and get your coffee, your tea, or water. It's going to be a great day. Y'all keep it locked.
This is a world premiere.
And we are back right here on the Culture Call with yours truly, L. Spencer Smith. Praise 93.3 and 790 WTSK. And we are having an amazing day already. We're talking about best practices. Who establishes them? Yeah. Is what is true establishes the best practice, or does truth establish it? I think that's a good way to put it. And then we really talked about, is truth a what, or is truth a who? Yeah, that part. I think that is very significant to what we're saying this morning, because if we don't understand that piece, if we don't understand and engage that idea that maybe what I have thought was true does not line up with truth. And we're living in a generation, in a culture, and I can say this as a pastor, as a person, as a parent, all of that. We're living in a generation that they don't want to have anything. Everybody's establishing their own truth. As I said, it's the same way in the book of Judges. You know, everybody's doing what is right in their own eyes. You know, you can't tell me what I can do. You can't tell me this. And Brother Jay and I were talking about that. You know, we're in that kind of generation that, you know, there's a certain arrogance around ignorance. There's a certain hubris that this generation has, a certain pride, right? And that is because that they have allowed themselves to cultivate and curate these truisms, and then they call it truth for them. And when you begin to refute what they consider to be true, right, then they get offended. Not because you're coming with a different perspective, but what is true to them has become their identity, their experience, good or bad, their perspective, good or bad, their perceptions, good or bad, that they begin to formulate a particular life and a lifestyle around that. And when you challenge it, or if you ask about it, automatically guards go up, because now they're not just defending what they have deemed to be true, but they're defending the life that they have built on what they thought were true. Does that make sense? Right. So, you know, and we only say it about young people. No, the old folks too. I grew up with them. Part of my assignment is to be a part of the bridge generation. I'm that bridge to try to connect the younger and the older, right? And that's always been, when I was a younger man, yeah, that was my assignment. That I would deal with younger people and say, hey, okay, let's look at this. And then I would deal with older people and say, okay, here's the different perspective. Here's what the word says to all of us, regardless of what your generation is. Don't let anybody despise your youth, right? And that's important, because then I used to tell older people, yeah, but your youth is a roadmap. It's a legend. It's a key. It is the opportunity for you to engage, to bear witness, and to gain parity and access to the life of the next generation. Why? Because you can tell them, I once was young too. I did crazy stuff too. And of course, in my little sanctified church, these people dropped out of heaven, right? And they fell in a cup of water, and they started fizzing, and they started speaking in tongues and shouting and dancing and serving the Lord, right? That's how they coined it when I was coming up. And you and I know, Coach Call, that is not the truth. And so it turned a lot of young people off. And here it is, they left the wisdom. They left the generation who the scripture says that he calls the old, because they have known the way from the beginning, right? And from conceptually, they leave that because the old from the beginning forget that they have a beginning. right? They want to tell you about their sanctified selves and let that be the only truth that they're applying to your life. No, your life is filled with vicissitudes, with ups and downs, ins and outs, mountains and valley, good and bad. Yes, as much of an angel as you would like to think you are now, you have cosplayed the devil before. Yeah, that part. And so the bridge between generations are oftentimes broken down because a lot of times the older generation does not want to. Again, he calls the old because they have known the way. Here's the clause. Here's the prepositional phrase, from the beginning, which means you have learned the way. That means if you learn the way, you didn't always know the way. You see what I'm saying? And so that's the part of the story you can't leave out if you're trying to gain access to the next generation. And so we look at children, and we look at one time we were fussing at millennials getting older now, all these, and they're coming out with generation after generation, and we look at them like, I wonder how they can do that. I wonder how they can do that. My God. But didn't you do it in your day? Yeah, pictures. Somebody got some pictures. Didn't you do it too? It wasn't your music, but it was you did dance. Didn't you go to the club? Didn't you go to the juke joint? Didn't you go to the foot washing? Y'all done got quiet in here, Coach Call. Yeah, that part. Yes, that's a part of your story too. Yeah, that's a part of your narrative too. You know what you look like without truth abiding in your life. You know what the road looks like and what the road can be because you've walked that road. Well, we need to know you walk the road too. We don't just need to know that you singing it as the second alto and the lead singer in the second Sunday choir. That's not the beginning of your story. That's not even the middle. That is just you found a comfortable narrative, a comfortable autobiography for yourself, right? But your life wasn't always lived on the best practices of truth. Period. And there's a generation that needs that. What does that do? What does that do? Glad that y'all asked me. That helps you gain credibility and respect. Now watch this. I am grateful that Paul put something in the text. And I don't want to come off preachy this morning, even though that's what I am. But I don't want to come off preachy. But Paul says, we have not a high priest that cannot be touched with the feelings of our infirmities, our weaknesses, but was at all points tempted, such as we are. I want to push pause right there because I know the latter phrase says yet without sin. Well, you're not Jesus, so calm down. Right? So, but he puts that in there to let you know that ain't no use for you to acting like you ain't ever felt nothing. No, because Christ has felt everything you felt. Right? And so I use that as to open up this meta narrative. And that when we're sitting down talking to each other, and listen, the younger generation, you got to gain some ears to hear. You have your experiences, yes. But there is a time you come to the table listening, not listening to respond, but listening to learn. Do you see what I'm saying? We've got to have that. And if we don't have that, kind of parity, one thing I used to love, and I miss it so dearly. I missed it yesterday. I miss it every day. Is the ability to hear from my mom and my dad, my grandparents, people who are older than me. I used to sit there, ear hustling, eavesdropping, however you want to call it. I just wanted to hear their conversations and what they talked about. I wasn't trying to tell their business. I know their business, but I just kind of wanted to hear. But when I got older, I could ask them things, how to handle certain things. I would love that. My mom was a pastor before me. My granddaddy was a pastor, a bishop before me. And so I used to enjoy just kind of getting an understanding of what is this about, man? Why is this and how can I handle this? And not to offer my 2 cents. The only 2 cents that I had was, here's the situation. Now tell me how did y'all handle it? See, because again, it's not that I adopted everything that they told me. It is the fact that I had an opportunity to sit at what they believe were best practices, how they interpreted truth for situations in their lives, and to see how could I adopt that same kind of regimen for my own life. Yeah, it was not to castigate. It was not to, y'all just old folks. No, As a young man, that is very important, right? And so, it's funny to me when I hear young people on social media who ain't never marched, they ain't never fought for nothing, they ain't never been in jail, talking about we are not our ancestors. Well, you see, that's probably the problem. That might be the problem. Because if you're only relegating your ancestors to them that were docile and did what supremacy in the institution told them to do, then you got a bad reading of history. Because the privileges that we sit on now, could we have more? Yes. Are we hundreds of years behind? Yes. All of that. We can go through all of that. Absolutely. However, we wouldn't have what we have now if it wasn't for our ancestors fighting and going to jail and being lynched and dying and singing songs and not being afraid to take bullets. Yeah. And we wouldn't, half of us wouldn't even be able to survive. When my parish would tell me all the things that they were trying to do to get to vote in the 50s and the 60s, and I was like, my God. Like, no, And then you tell me you ain't going to vote. What? No. You're living under a guise. You're living under a falsehood, a true thing to you that is built on a deception because you don't know the truth. That's the reality. Right. Them that know to do good and don't do it is a transgressor already. If you know that, I get up and I'm just going to talk about voting here, but this applies to everything. I get up and vote and stand in them lines, and it's not a long line. It's not a long line compared to when our foreparents stood in the line, had to pay a poll tax, had to look at a jar of jelly beans to talk about how much was in it or how to do foolish things. Even the people who were asking them the questions didn't even know the answer. All because they didn't want them to vote. And now I'm going to sit on my laurels because, what does voting do? Voting is the thing that got you to the place talking about, what does voting do? Voting don't do nothing. That's what voting does. It gives you the opportunity and the priority to say something as asinine as that. What does voting do? Voting liberated. Voting changes politics and structures. You see? But when we talk about what are the best practices, that we do need to look at our lives and we do need to look at what we do. How do we handle our finances? What's the best practices for stewardship? What's the best practices for how we rear our children? I agree that some of the things that they did, and even my mama agreed before she passed away, and my daddy, they were like, yeah, some of the things that we did, some of the things we spanked y'all with, if we had a chance to do it all over again, we probably wouldn't do it. But that was the way that they told us. That was the way they did. That's what they did to us. And so I couldn't be mad because they did what they knew to do for them. So but I still believe in disciplining children. I still believe in respect. I still believe in honor. I believe that my children at a certain age were not my friends. I'm your parent. You my child. So you're not going to talk to me any old kind of way. See, that ain't best practices. That not in my house, it ain't. Joshua talk about best practices. As for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. I don't know who y'all going to serve. Oh, no. Now, if little Johnny come to my house, little Johnny is my child. That he my child. I'm going to tell you straight up. So if he say something crazy, he cusses or uses profanity, I'm going to treat little Johnny just like he is Jory, Jamel, Jaron, and Deidre. That's absolutely. And if you got a problem with that, then little Johnny cannot stay to my house, and we all right. We cool. Little Johnny ain't calling me by my first name. No, he going to call me Mr. Smith. That's what little Johnny going to call me. Yeah. I don't care how cute you think little Shatira is. I don't care. Yeah. She's going to respect Mrs. Smith. She going to respect, yeah. And I see it all the time. You know, but one of the things that unnerves my life is when kids just get out there after church and they're running in the pulpit, because we couldn't do that. Oh, my God. No, absolutely not. You couldn't sit in the preacher chair. You couldn't sit in the pulpit. There was just certain things you could not do. Matter of fact, you couldn't even go to the front in our church. In terms of after church, you head on out the door. But now you got parents that let their kids run all over the church, do whatever they want to do. And you know, but my thing is I let my folks know, okay, if I see something like that, and you ain't getting them, they're going to still get got. Because guess what? They're going to get got by me. Because, you know, we got to learn how to create and cultivate best practices and teach them the order of places. No, you're not going to run in the mall. You're not going to run in this restaurant. You're not going to run down the hall in school. You're not going to do it. You are going to be respectful. You are going to have manners. You are not going to say, when I call you, you say, yeah. Oh, no, you're not. No. Oh, no, we're not doing that. Well, that sounds so old hat. I don't care how it sounded. It's teaching respect. You've not earned the age. You've not had any tenure on this circling ball, this circle ball that's circling. You've not had enough time on the earth to ever think that you can just call me what you want to call me, like I'm like sound like I'm one of your little friends. No, seriously. No, it's teaching respect and manners and morals and values. And my parents said before they sent me to college, when you learn how to say yes, ma'am, no, ma'am, yes, sir, no, sir, when you go into places and you're asking for something, you need something, those people will be more inclined to do it for you because you showed them respect and honor than somebody that gets up at the window or gets up at the situation, gets up at the on the phone and just going lambasting, just going off. You told me, yeah. And that's why even today, if somebody texting me, I'm gonna say yes, yes, ma'am. If they're talking to me, I'm a yes, sir, yes, ma'am. Even if they're younger than me, I'm gonna show them respect. And it changes the trajectory of their behavior toward me. See, those are best practices. And Culture Call, what I want to know is, are we doing that? Do we still do that? Are we still teaching respect and honor? Are we still showing honor to our elders? Are we still showing honor to our grandparents and to our parents? Or are we just doing what is right in our own eyes and letting them find themselves? You're going to find yourself in a seat. That's what you're going to do. Absolutely. Listen, I got to breathe. But y'all keep it right here on the Culture Call with yours truly, L. Spencer Smith. We'll be right back.
This is a world premiere.
And we are back on the Culture Call right here. It's the top of the hour with yours truly, L. Spencer Smith. 11 a.m. and some change, and I'm telling you, we are having a great day today. Welcome to all of my listeners for the second hour of our amazing broadcast today. I'm telling you, we have a very powerful topic, best practices. What does that look like? What are we doing in our lives to make sure that we are functioning with the best practices for our lives, right? I think it's very, very important. Right here, I want to segue and just remind you that on next Tuesday, there is a vote on education ad valorem tax. Regardless of how you vote, you need to make your voices heard. I know there's a lot of signs around the city, pro and cons, but be a concerned citizen. Make sure that you do your research. Make sure that you study. Make sure that you ask the questions that you need to so that you can make an informed decision. Don't get caught up in the hype of emotionalism and what this person says over that person. No, go ahead, do your research, and then make your vote. The most important thing is that you cast your vote. However you vote, the most important thing is to get your name out there so that you can know what to do or what you can expect for the future in terms of education and property value, all those things, etc. And so definitely want to do that. Don't want to scoot over this. Welcome again to all of you who are part of our second hour. And we have been talking about best practices. We've been talking about how should we conduct our lives, and based on what truth or what truisms. I think that's very important because a whole lot of people are going on things that are true or what they consider to be true that they find out are not based on truth, right? And you know, right now, the big thing in this country, and let me say this unequivocally, the big thing in our country right now is how the former president in a debate said that Haitian immigrants in Springfield, Ohio were what? They were stealing pets, cats and dogs to be particular. They were killing geese and all kind of stuff, and they were eating them. And everybody's like, what is he talking about? And then, of course, his presidential running mate, J.D. Vance, goes on and says, well, my constituents are telling me, I don't care what y'all say, I'll make up a story so that the media can follow it, right? Okay, so here it is, obfuscation. And then yesterday, so you got all these people, you done got scared, blah, 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 right? All these Haitians like, what are you talking about? The city government is like, what are you talking about? You know, the governor is like, what are you talking about? Now, to some people, y'all, you ready? That's not enough to not support him. That ain't enough. Because he gets to do, listen, you have to admit that the metric for this guy is different than the metric for any black one or white 40, however many presidents has been, that this has been a spectacular issue of privilege. If you want to see the epitome of privilege, put, Donald Trump there, because that's exactly what it is. Because the media, all of those, they just won't, people, and they've been racist before, all of that. So I know part of it is the racism, and it's a part, but it's also the money, but it's the crazy ability to lie and to deceive. Well, yesterday, the lady who said she started it was like, well, I know I said, now watch this, y'all, because I'm going to bring out some things, right? She said, I know I said that the Haitians took my cat and ate it, but I found my cat in my basement. And so I said, I'm sorry to my neighbors. Number one, the woman has a history of mental challenges. Number one, that's not the thing, y'all. The second of all, before we accuse, the normal person would go down and look and say, hey, kitty, 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 kitty. You would walk around the neighborhood, you put up signs. You wouldn't accuse your neighbor because they are Haitian of catching your cat and eating it. Are you serious? All right. So we wouldn't do that. But here is the pinnacle, y'all. Here is the pinnacle, right? Let me show you what is not best practices, which is immediately disqualifying individual, right? That you are running as the president of the free world and the vice president of the free world, the most powerful individual in the world as it relates to politics. And you don't investigate to see if it's true, that the information that you're receiving, you don't check the veracity, you don't check to make sure that it is the truth, right? But because you just wanted to stir something out of the hatred in your own heart for immigrants. It went with a narrative. Y'all remember I talked about narrative the other day? It went with a narrative of you hating immigrants. And now you got all these people. And then when you find out, watch this, disqualifying. That was already disqualifying. Because you could get us in a war based upon something you heard in the locker room. You could be on the golf course and get us in the war, or lock anybody up based upon something that your friend said because my constituents, what many have said. Oh, what? And you don't do your due diligence. You, the one that does not even take intelligence reports that comes to presidents on the daily? Right. So, yeah. And then you say, well, I'm still going to say it because you believe it's deflecting from your debate performance. It's deflecting from Project 2025. Huh? And your policies or the lack thereof, or your concept of plans. You're deflecting from all of the illegalities that you're dealing with, the voting suppression, right? And there are millions of people that think, watch this, y'all. Let me show you something. There are millions of people that think God did that. Wait a minute. Are you serious? He don't even believe in God like that by his own admission. But you see what I'm saying? And so they think the best practices is to put somebody like that as our leader in the country. Listen. I have this is not even a personal situation. I'm just trying to say what I'm saying. I'm just trying to say what I'm saying. And I need y'all to pay attention that there are black and white folks that think, and it astounds me that there are black folks. I mean, I'm still trying to figure what that is about. But there are black and white folks that think, oh man, that's the good person. Getting cities wrong, getting people wrong, getting army bases wrong, lying, talking about himself. You know, I'm looking good. I look good. Many people say I look better than Kamala. All this stuff. I mean, every day. In any other instance, let me tell you why the country is in a bad place. Because in any other real circumstances, and I'm talking to those of you who support foolishness. So just to let you know, I ain't running away from you. I'm talking right to you. Do you believe that person he's not even on the par of Mitt Romney, not on par of John McCain, not on par with George W. Bush, and George W. Bush was not even a smart man. George H.W. Bush, I mean, you go back, he wasn't on the level of Ronald Reagan, none of that. He wasn't on the level of Bill Clinton, none of that. The excuses that you're giving him are the things that you said crucify Bill for. I'm talking about crucify. And that's the same thing that didn't even get Hillary elected because you were afraid that Bill was going to get back in the White House. Are you serious? And you let that scroll. Listen, okay, so you're letting someone, you lost loved ones during COVID because this person was on purpose. Talking about best practices now. On purpose, did not give the right information because they didn't want to lose. So you allow millions of people to die and the economy to tank? And there are people, watch it, y'all, there are people that support that. Listen, this is not personal. I'm just stating the facts. That's all I'm doing. And if we're not going to be able to say I'm just talking the truth now. Right? Period. That if it had not been for the Biden-Harris regime, Biden-Harris administration, the Teamsters pensions would have been tanked. Biden and Harris saved that. And then yesterday, they're talking about, well, we're not going to endorse any presidential candidate, the National Teamsters. Are you serious? Are you serious? Which is why you're seeing a proliferation of local chapters endorsing Harris now. Because they know we wouldn't have had our pensions if it wasn't for this administration. That's the part. And you would be surprised at how much racism still affects this country in every sector, in religion as well. You would be surprised. That's not best practices. But here's the deal. People, they want to bring this both side isms. This guy, Elon Musk, he colluded with Saudi Arabian families and Russian oligarchies to take over and buy Twitter. So for the very purposes of fueling misinformation and disinformation to help one side over the other. Because you do know in those other countries, rich people run the country. In Russia, in China, all those different kinds of countries, they run the country. Right? That's why they want to be in power, because you put them in power. Yeah. And when you put those kind of people in power, they don't ever want to let it go. This is not hit. If it was never done in history, then you might have to say, well, nah, you just using hyperbole. I know I'm using history, not hyperbole. That's the facts. That is the truth. And you can see, here's the thing about truth. You can wish against it all you want to. You can wish against it all you want to. But guess what? Doesn't make it true. Doesn't make it facts. Doesn't mean that it's going to come to pass. Right. And so we've got people, well, she's against abortion. She's for abortion, and I can't support nobody that shed innocent blood. Okay, that's what we doing. That's what you're gonna do. Is that the hill you want to die on? Because I don't think so. Do your research. That I can already tell. Do your research. You can't care about the child, the unborn child, and you can't care about the unborn child and not care about the born living mother. That you're not giving them proper care. You say bump that, but then you don't want. So then, how do you think the baby's going to turn out if you don't give the mother proper care? How does that work? Where are the adoption agencies from all of these churches? Where are they? Because I love how my bishop put it, and he put it in such a point here, Bishop Ralph Dennis. He put it like this. He said, yes, we need to be on the side of life. I get that. But we also, as people who are against abortion, also have to become, we can't just stop it there at being anti-abortion. We have to figure out what we're going to do with these babies. How are we going to take care of them medically? What's the plan there? Huh? What's the plan? Where are the orphanages? Are we going to create foster care? One church I preached to is in Buffalo, New York, and they showed us, my wife and I, we were traveling there, Buffalo, Bishop Michael Badger, and they showed us the orphanage, and the foster agency and the adoption agency that their church began. And it was amazing. And I was like, hey, I want to do something like that in Tuscaloosa. I want to do something like that in Alabama. So that when we say and we encourage the mother to choose life, and if she decides to do that and she doesn't want to keep the baby, there's some place there's a resource, an agency that we can to connect. But if you don't have that, that's just like James saying, you fussing at homeless people. Do you have a home? Are we building shelters? No, you rather put them in jail. Where you going? And better yet, you rather they die. What are you talking about? America? What are we talking about in terms of best practices? That's not the best practices, because it's delusional to think that everybody who's living on the street wants to be there. And at the same rate, you're talking about housing going up. This is why one side is talking about bringing housing down and giving credit for new houses. Bring it down. Stop all the price gouging and all these kinds of things. What are you talking about? What are we talking about? It is, hear me, y'all, it is time for the Confederacy to finally demise itself. It's time. Because the way that we think, they still think in terms of we lost our money, we lost our wealth because we lost our property. And the property that they lost were bodies, were slaves. That was the engine of wealth in the South. That's why in the South, you don't see a lot of industrial business and not like in Atlanta. Because if you do the great swath of the deep South, all you got basically is Atlanta, some other, maybe Savannah and things like that. But most of them are manufacturing. manufacturing. Because and they're still building prisons. They're spending billions of dollars. Come on, Culture Call. They're spending billions of dollars to build prisons, even in this state of Alabama. What's that for? Who's going to fill them? What are they anticipating? Stop. Don't get mad at the messenger. Think about it. What are they anticipating by building more prisons? That ain't hard. Tell yourself the truth. The greatest resource of a prison are people. Did you get that? The greatest resource that a prison can have is people. Okay, where are they getting these people from? Huh? Right? That they're going to change the levels of misdemeanors and going to start, in order for you to go to prison, they're going to have to either allow crime or decline or diminish the state of what it takes for you to go to prison. Because they're not building these brand new prisons, big old prisons for nothing. They haven't built a school. They haven't built a PWI and HBCU, a learning institution, in a while, in years. But you building prisons? Yeah. And that's best practices in America? Are you serious? What are we communicating to people? Right? And so, back to J.D. Vance, he gets up and says, well, I know y'all want me to call them Haitian immigrants, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to still keep saying what I'm saying. Watch this. And he says they are illegal aliens. He is lying. That's a lie. No, they are not illegal aliens, because it was that president you read with, he was the one that gave them temporary protective status because their country was in decline in Haiti. Not Haitian. Oh, my God. Haiti. Yeah, that part. He was the one again, and Biden extended it. So they're here as citizens. Yeah, they're working in Springfield. They're working all over the country because they were given temporary protective status from a declining country. And now that's how you're going to tell them who actually have rejuvenated the economy of Springfield, Ohio. But that's what you're going to do because that's best practices. Because, no, that's not best practices. You're just trying to win an election. Culture Call. Do y'all see this? Now, push pause. Let's go a little further in our conversation. Here it is. Do you know why Haiti is the way Haiti is? Okay, glad that you asked. Haiti is the way that Haiti is because France and the Western world, us included, are still upset because Haiti were the first slaves that gained their independence. That Haiti were the first slaves, the first of the enslaved from Africa to fight and win for their independence. And they have kept that gripe for hundreds of years and have made, watch this, for them losing, France in particular, for them losing, have made Haiti pay back for the weaponry and all of that was destroyed. People lie. They made Haiti pay for the war that they started and they lost, and Haiti has been paying it. And so a tremendous part of their economy goes to France. Huh? That America has overthrown leaders there and then overthrew the leaders that they put. So they have created, not Haiti, the Western world has created this whole situation in Haiti. And so, yeah, you need to let them come here and stay here and put them up in the finest rags. But see, best practices is determining about who's determining what is best and best for who. That's what we're talking about. That's what I want you to lean into, right? Best practices for who? And if we don't begin to discover that, Culture Call, if we don't begin to tell ourselves the truth, become acquainted with the truth, The truth says, the scripture, it always says how we are to treat people who are from foreign places with kindness. That's what the scripture says. But you're going to abandon that? Really? And that's best practices? Or they're going to leap over the wall? You can't disrupt the country and then get mad when the country falls down. And then when people start coming here because you disrupted the country, then you get mad and you take on some righteous indignation. Oh, they're taking your jobs. Nobody taking your job. Y'all, they wasn't going to get out there. Half the saints ain't going to get out there and mow no grass. They ain't getting out there and building no houses. They're not getting out in the noonday sun and picking no fruit and no vegetables. None of that. None of it. Right? But best practices. And so really what we're looking at is, I saw a meme on the other day that poor people, that this rich man in the middle has all of the cookies. And this other man, he's given this other man one, and this other man on the other side of the table has none. So the rich man is sitting in the middle with all of the cookies. And one man is sitting on the right-hand side with one cookie, and the one sitting on the left-hand side with no cookies. And the rich man is telling the one with one cookie, be careful, lest this guy takes your cookie. Wait a minute. But, dude, you got all the cookies. How did you get all of the cookies? You see? And so in America, best practices is we having poor folks fighting poor folks. We're having folks that need each other, that could overthrow, that could move forward, that could change the system and change the paradigm. We've got folks like that could do that, right? But money, the people who with money don't want to lose their money. Okay, let's try it again. The people with money don't want to lose their money, don't want to share it with you, don't want to raise the minimum wage. All of that. That's a lie. They don't want to do that. That's the way the system works, to keep all that I can get for myself and my children. And then I'm going to let y'all fight it out. I'm going to throw a thing like abortion. I'm going to throw a thing like race in there. I'm going to throw a thing like DEI and CRT. I'm going to throw a thing like women and misogyny. I'm going to throw chauvinism in there. And I'm just going to watch y'all play checkers with each other while I sit back and eat all of the cookies, none of which I'm giving to you. And watch this. And as Donald Glover, Childish Gambino says, he says, this is America. Absolutely. Best practices. One of my preacher friends, we had it out on social media the other day because I was like, hey, y'all, let's look at this. And I'm thinking about a refined, a pure, a righteous ecclesiology, how the church should be, right? And so I said, hey, we've got to stop saying things like this, especially in the political realm, using it as a political device. We've got to stop saying that God loves this person because God protected that person from, air quotes, assassinations attempts. But then that same God looked at those children in Georgia, in that Georgia school, and says, and I believe it's Appalachia, and said, let them die. What? So God favored one and didn't favor the other? When the text says God is no respecter of persons, we are, people are, but God is not. And so you're going to use your faith and say that, then he came on like, well, millions of people were praying for this guy not to get assassinated, been praying for him. I said, what do you mean? I said, that's the dumbest thing. I said, so you trying to tell me all the parents that sent their kids to school wouldn't pray for their parents? Praying for their children? That God disregarded their prayer? Well, I guess we just going to have to agree to disagree. No, we don't. Because, see, to me, disagreement means, to me, y'all, disagreement means our 2 points are equal and they're just different ways of seeing it. No, this is not me agreeing to disagree. This is simply what you're saying don't make a hill of beans sense, and you can't line it up in Scripture. You can't line it up with the text. You can't line it up in history. And what I'm saying is just say politically You favoring one person. I said because if the assassination's attempts had a came for Biden or Harris, you would have said that was God's judgment. That's what you would have said. Now you're saying because it didn't work on this side, it's God's protection. Wait a minute. No, it's not. See, because people will infuse faith where it does not belong. God is not picking kings and things like this is not a theocracy. God has given every man their own free will. And based upon the standard of our relationship with the truth or our truths, that's how we go to the ballot box. But to try to make it seem like God is in this one and then you can't answer for how this happened, yeah, bro. Nah, we good. No, we not agreeing to disagree. I just don't have nothing to say to you. Y'all, that's just the reality. I'm just keeping it real. I don't have nothing to say to you because what you said just don't make no sense. If somebody crazy comes and blows up a daycare center and then and kills all the children, you believe that God favored this individual who doesn't even honor him? And then on the same thing, you talking about pro-life? Come on, y'all. Are you serious? Those children were at the start of their life. And that's what you're going to say? And that is your best theology? Come on. That's the best practice? Nah, bro. Nah, we can't. See, this is what I'm saying, Culture Call. We have to start thinking about, in this country, and it begins with our personal lives, what are these best practices? What are all these things that we're talking about and that we let people slide with and get away with in the name of our own perspective, perceptions, and ideologies? We've got to begin to do better. Let me say it again. We've got to do better. We've got to do better. And call a thing a thing. Speak the truth. Speak it in love, but speak the truth. Because if you don't know how to do that, truth is the thing that makes you free. Truth is the aspect of what transforms. Truth is a he. Folks like, what would Jesus do? No, what did Jesus do? Not what would. What did he do? And that will give you an indication of what the best practices are. You feel me? Absolutely. Listen, gotta take a break. Y'all go ahead and get y'all a nab. Hey, we're getting down to the end, but there's still some great things to come. Y'all keep it right here on the Culture Call with yours truly, L. Spencer Smith. Praise 93.3, 790 WTSK.
This is a world premiere.
And we are back. Hey, guys, don't forget to hit me up on that chat. That's right, on the app. That's right, you can go ahead and hit me up on the app. Yeah, because I know some of you can't call, but you got a lot of things you want to say. Go ahead and do that. That'll help me craft my future conversations. Because one of the things that's very important to me is that I do hear from you. I want to hear from you to make sure that you're getting and understanding what we're saying. Listen, today is a heavy subject and a heavy topic. It's not really heavy, but it's important. Best practices. What are we looking at? What are we doing? What are we willing to do? What is the courses of events that, make sure that we, look at our lives and say, hey, I think we need to take this position. I think we need to do things this way. Because if we don't do that, if we don't learn how to do that, if we don't stand up for what we know is right, then how can we really say that we are operating in best practices for our lives? What do we teach our children? What do we say to the next generation? Right? Because you do understand that life and generations are building blocks, that what we do starts as the platform, the floor for the next generation. And so we have to ask ourselves in a very serious and sobering way, what are the practices that we need to look at? What do we best need to do to make sure that, maybe, just maybe, we can do better in this area? And the reason why I want to lay out, some folks like, well, he talking about politics, so I'm not. No, I'm not. I'm talking about that, just that part of Americana that we need to look at. I mean, I could pick a plethora. I could talk about church, but I don't want to listen. I could talk about church because that's my wheelhouse. That's what I deal with every day in terms of best practices. We could talk about marriage. We could talk about dating. We could talk about finances. See, we need to think about what's the best practices and where are we getting our truths or our truisms from what make up those practices, the way that we pattern our lives. That no matter how you look at it, ma'am, no matter how you look at it, sir, we all practice some level of religion. And the end result of religion, not just quote unquote Christianity, but all religions, religion as a definition, is to learn how to live and to treat others how that particular deity in that religion would want you to treat them. Right? So religion is just not something that you say, well, this is what I'm doing. No. Religion, there has to be a priority and a formulation that you use. This is what, for us, it's part of that is the Beatitudes. Part of that is what Jesus says, love your neighbor as yourself. Love God with everything, your heart, soul, mind, your strength. And the second is likened unto it. Love your neighbor as you love yourself. It is a part of, blessing those that curse you, pray for those that despitefully use you, right? All of that. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. Blessed are the merciful, all those things. Those are practices. Those are tenets. Those are not just cute little sayings that we hang up on the wall in Sunday school. That's not what that is. No. I know we would think that's what it is, but it's really not. Right? And that's the reality. And if your religion does not seek to make you better so that you can be better for other people and treat other people better, to be a better husband, a better wife, a better child, a better coworker, a better parent, a better steward over the finances and the blessings and the grace and the favor that I've garnered. If your religion is not doing that, then your religion is idolatry. Let me tell you why. Don't mean to hurt nobody's feelings, but it's idolatry because it is built unto self. It is built unto self-pleasure. Right? Now, I don't mind self-love. I don't mind taking care of yourself. I don't mind maintaining your peace. Those things are necessary in order to have a vibrant and an effective life that you can't be run down. So you do have to retreat. You do have to maintain your peace. There is righteousness in telling some people no when it's necessary. There is righteousness of pulling yourself back and saying, no, I don't need to be involved in that. Even though it may sound like a pressuresome situation, you see? But that's the thing. That's one of the things that I really want to say to you, that unless you do that, unless your religion does that, then your religion is for naught. It's futile. If you're not going to church, not to get titles and not to sit on the front seat, because the Apostle James talks about that in his book, but nonetheless, if you're going to be seen, have a fashion show, to praise and holler so everybody can look at you, and if you're going to work, to step on people and not operate integrity so you can get a raise and you can get if you're going to school to cheat so that you can be, the top of your class or get access to certain programs, if you're opening the business to manipulate people and to deceive them, to steal their money and all that, then yeah. If you're doing that, watch this, every day, habitually, that's a religion. And if that religion is not making other people better and you better, guess what? That religion is idolatry. And that is not, and I will emphatically say, 10 toes down, that is not best practice. That you're going home, sir, and smacking your wife and abusing her, calling her everything but a child of God. But then you get up in church or you go to work and everybody, how you doing, darling? How you doing, sweet? You treating other women better than you treat your wife? and you do that all the time, that's a type of religion. And that type of religion is idolatry. It's hypocrisy. Period. There's no room for argument there. If you're respecting your pastor every week, but your husband, you go home and disrespect him and talk to him all kind of way, don't cook for him, don't love on him and nothing like that, guess what? That is a religion called idolatry. Yeah. Right. If you're letting your children grow up by themselves, that you're letting Nintendo and all these electronics and social media grow them up because you're too busy to be a parent, or you're giving them the opportunity to call you by your first name or whatever, to curse in your house and use profanity and not be honorable when they go to school and all these different kinds. They're fussing at the teachers on your bad child behalf because you know they're bad when you sent them to school. Your child didn't turn bad when they rode the yellow bus. Period. If you do that every day, that is a religion. It's called idolatry. It's centered around you. Period. I mean, this is the thing. And so when you're dealing with that kind of religion / idolatry, then best practices always going to be what benefits you. Always going to be about what's about you. Always and only going to be about what makes you happy and what is comfortable and convenient to you. That is idolatry. That is that is having another God. For my religious, sanctified Christian saints, that's placing another God before him, before Yahweh. Think about it. That's the reality. Because it's all about me. If you're getting married or want to get married just to have a wedding and get a dress and have all your friends, ogle you and bring you gifts, toasters and blenders and whatever, but you're not there to love, you've not made a decision to love, honor, and respect. You've not made a decision for better, for worse, for richer, for poor, in sickness and health, forsaking all others as long as you both shall live. If you've not done that, but you're living in this fantasy Cinderella world every day, yeah, that part. Right? And so we got to start thinking about these best practices. If you're saying, God, bless me, bless me, bless me, bless me, bless me with money, bless me, bless me, bless me, bless me, bless me, and then God says, okay, well, sow into that sister $20. I ain't sowing no $20. I need my money. If God can't make you a blessing, then why bless you? Because according to Genesis chapter number 12, according to the Abrahamic discourse that he has, he says, I'm going to bless you and I'm going to make you a blessing. And through you shall all of the families of the earth be blessed. Point blank, period. We ain't got nothing else. You see what I'm saying? When you deal with truth now. And that's our assignment for the day, Culture Call, to examine ourselves. What are we doing with this? What are you doing with this? What are you saying? What do you want? What are you saying? I don't understand. And I think that's something very, very important that each and every one of us, I'm not hugging on another woman more than I hug on my wife. That every other woman in my church, or every other sister in my church, my daughters know that I love them, but my wife feels it's strange. No, that's not going to happen. No, Because one of the things at the end and the beginning of that, I had my wife before I had a church. And I had my wife after I retired. Absolutely. I'm doing as well as I'm doing now because I got a good wife, period. Next. You get in what you put in. You get out what you put in. Best practices is what we're talking about. You see what I'm saying? Open up. Open up your eyes. You see? This is one of my favorite sitcoms, Fred Sanford. Sanford and Son. Sitcom is called Sanford and Son. And it's an episode where Julio and Lamont, Julio is the Hispanic friend, and Lamont go out, and there were robbers in Julio's yard, and Fred saw them. And Fred said, hey, get out that yard. And the man pointed the gun at Fred. He said, what you doing? He said, you don't know and you don't want to know. So Fred decided, hey, I saw it happen. I saw it, but guess what? It happened to him. It ain't happened to me. And so Fred decided he didn't want to say, I don't want to get involved. I'm not telling the police nothing. Y'all got to figure it out yourself. That's what he said. That's exactly what he said. And then Lamont and Julio, played it on Fred. And then Julio said, oh, yeah, that's what the guys, I saw them, must be the same guys that came to me. He said, and the same guy said, you don't know and you don't want to know. And Julio said, I ain't going to get involved. See, we always think it's about us until something happens to us that we need other people to operate in best practices when it benefits us. But do we do the same in reciprocal to other people? You see, this life, this world revolves around how we treat one another, how we love one another, how we have decided in faith, in trust, in integrity, in great character to do what is right by our neighbors, by our neighborhood, by our spouses, our children, each other. That's truth. And so, yes, absolutely. We need to begin to talk about best practices and think about that. Because guess what? If we don't, it's like the old saints used to say to me, if I die and my soul be lost, it ain't nobody's fault but mine. You feel me? Absolutely. Listen, this is L. Spencer Smith. We're getting ready to land this plane, but we got a little bit more to go. Keep it locked right here on The Culture Call.
This is a world premiere.
Hey, family, we've had a wonderful day today. Our discussion, my goodness, best practices. And I wanted to give you something to think about. Why? Because I think it is important for us to do that. If we don't think about how we can treat each other, how we can love better, how we can show honor and respect to each other as a human community, not just as a black community, not just as a white community, Hispanic community, but as a human community, that we've allowed so many things to divide us. We've allowed so many things to obfuscate the truth and the facts that, yes, indeed, we need each other. And if we do what we are supposed to do, absolutely, you're going to find out that the world will become better. Now, I know that sounds like utopia. I know that sounds like great language. But the truth is that the world is built off of the foundation of each of our actions, which is why that we ought to love our neighbors as we love ourselves. If we can't do that, then I'm afraid to tell you that your religion is really idolatry because it's all about self. Y'all know me. I am really concerned about this language that we're using about self-centeredness. I'm self-care and self-love and but the truth that we live our lives by is deny ourselves, take up our cross and follow him. Or let's say you don't follow him, still, you ought to want to love somebody. You ought to want to make a decision to do what is best for them. And so listen, as I land this plane today, listen, don't take your seatbelt off until we get to the gate. Be almost there. But listen, I want you to make sure you do what is right with integrity, with the character, and do what the best practices. That's right. Love each other like we love ourselves and like God loves all of us. Listen, like my grandmama and my mama would say at the end of every phone call, I love you a bushel, I love you a peck, and I love you a hug around the neck. This is your boy, L. Spencer Smith, right here on The Culture Call. Praise 93.3, 790 WTSK. I want you to treat everybody right. I want you to smile as much as you possibly can. Yeah, don't get in any trouble if you can avoid it. Absolutely. And listen, I will catch y'all here again, 10 a.m. in the morning. You don't want to miss it. We're going to have another great conversation. Until then, y'all have a blessed day. Peace.